Hi guys, so it is Taylor here with I Am the Storyteller, and I'm sitting down with Vivian Wang from SIEVA Swimwear. She is the owner, designer, creator, inspiration behind the line.
All things SIEVA.
And I have to say, she's my best friend in the entire world, so I already know a lot of the answers that we're going to be going over, but
For everyone else's sake.
she is one of the most inspiring people. Don't blush. That this would be a great person to sit down with so that in case anybody is inspired to start their own swim line, this is a great place to start.
All answers uncandid.
So this is the first video we're doing, so if you have any advice as far as like lighting or anything like that, leave it in the comments below. Totally learning at this point. So
I have a blooper reel.
we're gonna have a blooper reel.
Yes.
We're actually in Vivian's apartment right now. It's so cute. Okay, so let's get into it. So Viv, let's go back to where you were born,
Okay.
your childhood, your life, where you
Okay.
grew up, that kind of stuff.
So long ago. Let me think back.
She's
No.
not that old.
Born and raised in Southern California, in Laverne, and very normal childhood. Have a younger brother. Parents are divorced, but both parents have always been around. Like we were just discussing the other day, you and I have known each other for 17 years.
17 years. Where are your parents from?
They're both born and raised in Taiwan, and they both came to the States in 1983.
Okay.
So parents moved here because my dad, from when I was growing up as a kid, worked in the real estate, came out to the States because, you know, like any immigration story, it's like in America, it's just like the land of dreams where you can do whatever you want. Parents had met, and then my dad moved here, and my mom followed him. 3 years later, I popped out. 1987.
Yeah.
My mom, she first came here with my dad. They were in the motel business. My dad was working the night shift of checking people in and out of rooms.
Yeah.
And my mom was essentially maid. It was just not glamorous whatsoever.
Right.
And after a couple years of living here and kind of, you know, putting some money in the bank, my mom went back to school and she really wanted to be a fashion designer. She'd fix if I had a tear in my shirt, you know, a little stitch, and show me how to put thread on a needle and how to close it up. I always remember her being in front of the sewing machine and hearing like the brrr, you know, the needle like going on. Her sewing room was always upstairs, so every morning I'd wake up and she'd be upstairs. I went to school, first 2 years at Cal State Fullerton. I, you know, majored like everybody else in communication. My dream job was fashion magazine editor-in-chief. We did a couple internships together. Remember we did SWAT Fame?
Yes.
We worked with this company called SWAT Fame, and they essentially made clothes for Charlotte Russe.
We worked directly with the designer.
Yeah.
And we really were just shipping boxes. We'd have to pull fabrics. It was a good introduction, I think.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like it was something I wanted to do super long term. I thought I wanted to do that and then moved out to LA proper and decided to change majors to be a film major and moved to Cal State LA. So I moved downtown at 20, and that was when life really started for me. Now it's 8 years later. Right after college, I got a job with The Truth. My position was a marketer where I traveled across the states to I think like 42 different cities in like 50 days, where basically we're sleeping on the bus every night and we would work with these kids every day on the Vans Warped Tour. The Truth's position was to talk with teens about the effects of big tobacco and smoking and the negative effects that it has. I started working at 5 Hour Energy immediately after that. I was still in field marketing. I worked there for 2 years. I just wasn't feeling that creative pull. I didn't really have any one thing that pushed me to stop working there. I could be content in working here for the rest of my life, or just, you know, for a long period of time, but what is it that I really want to do? January came and it was New Year's resolutions. I wanted to be more creative and be doing something that was kind of just more unique. I just told myself at the beginning of March, I'm like, this month just feels right. I resigned from my position. I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically other than I wanted to work for myself. I started studying for my GMAT, really studying like 4 days a week. My parents were super supportive, but after really all summer and leading into fall, I just wasn't really feeling that it was the right fit. There wasn't any specific excuse that was pulling me away. I just didn't feel right. After a lot of inner turmoil, I decided the holidays are coming up. I took the holidays to myself, and then the day after Christmas, I went to Thailand. A group of my friends are going, and you had been before. You said you loved it. And I had never been to anywhere really in the South Pacific, and so I was like, I want to try there. That whole trip kind of put things into perspective for me. I just came back again, and then it was January again, and I'm like, New Year's resolution, this is it. You know, if I don't do this now, it's probably never going to happen. The reason why I started SIEVA was because I wanted to create a suit that was comfortable for me. I couldn't find suits that I what felt really cute and like sexy and that were also I could be active and comfortable in. I knew I wanted to make a swimwear that was affordable. I wanted it to be reversible. I wanted it to be something that, you know, would cater to both lifestyles of party and also comfortability. I've had people ask me, what's your secret? Like, how did you do this? I saw you only a couple years ago and you're working in field marketing and now you're designing swimsuits. Like, that's so awesome. And my secret is, I don't have a secret.
The secret is
fake it till you make it. I had reached out to a girlfriend who I knew worked for some fashion company. I can't remember what I asked her, just saying like, oh, do you happen to know anyone who might be able to connect me with a fabric buyer in downtown? And she said, yeah, I do. Do you have your tech packs ready? And I'm thinking, what the heck is a tech pack? You know, Google tech pack. So I go home and I had to Google that, and then that's when I figured out that it's essentially a blueprint to a garment that you're making. Not the same as a pattern for a pattern maker, but it's the digital version of all the measurements and everything that you need from a top to swimwear to jeans. I learned that as I went. As I asked more questions, I got more answers. And as time went on, I had to research and I read a lot of books, I Googled a lot of things. I didn't know how to draw, I didn't know how to sew. I just had a vision and I needed to hire the people and work with people to help me get that vision from my head to life.
So you have this inspiration. You just kind of had this vibe and you almost put it into a print. How do you make that print?
One way that I got connected to making that print was through a mutual friend. At the time, worked for Lululemon, and I had asked for help on social media. I think it was through Facebook, saying, you know, I'm looking for someone who can help with sublimation print. Sublimation print is getting anything that you've designed, whether it be a sketch or a digital copy of something, printing that image onto the white fabric, because I knew I wanted a print that was exclusive to SIEVA, that captured that Thailand flowy blue, like, dreamy feel. It was a pretty long process in working with her only because of the distance. She lives in Canada.
Yeah.
I found a manufacturer overseas.
Okay.
I had them send me their stock of fabrics that they already had in their factory. And then I cut swatches of that and sent them to Nadine in Canada so that she can match the colors on her paintbrush to paint an image that she then sent back to me in a graphic file. And then I had to send that graphic file back to my manufacturer and say, can you make this?
How did you find the manufacturer in China?
I found the manufacturer through my cousin, whose friend actually works at that factory, so I knew it was like a legitimate space. I wanted it to be somewhere really cool that I could essentially travel to. I looked at like Costa Rica, I looked at Thailand, I looked at even like small little places like Bora Bora. The factory that I ended up going with, which is in China, was referred to by my cousin, and I knew that they were a legitimate factory. They've been around forever. The goal is to have everything in LA and American made, but everything's so expensive here that for my first round, I just knew I wasn't gonna be able to afford it.
Okay, so you had your print. Then what do you do?
Once I got the print, I had a consulting team here, which is who made my tech packs.
Okay, so you had to hire another team to help with the tech packs. Okay.
So they're called District 2 Co. It's run by this girl, Cassie, and I worked with another designer, Jasmine. The three of us would get together and I would draw out the best way that I could by hand, or I'd get magazine clippings saying, I like the way that this top cuts high neck, but I like the way that this mesh falls here from this top, and just pulling and picking these different things together to form what was in my mind, because I couldn't draw. That would be really helpful if I could draw, or if I could just make the tech pack myself, but because I don't have those skills, I would pull all these things together and then give them to Cassie and Jasmine and say that this is what my end goal is. You know, I paid them like an hourly rate to kind of get these tech packs to me, which and then I had to send to the manufacturer, and it was countless nights of Skyping from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning.
So it's totally different hours.
Yeah, and working with this designer, her name's Gary, who was there, and just speaking with her in broken English and Chinese and saying, this needs to be double-sided fabric, this mesh needs to be stretch mesh, you need to make sure that the ties in the back cross at 1/8 of an inch hem. Just little things like this that it sometimes was frustrating, you know, and it's like, send me photos of this, and there were a lot of mistakes. They'd sometimes send the samples back that took over a month to get here. It was a lot of back and forth, which is why it was a year and a couple months that it really took me the first collection to get here. I finally thought, okay, these are what I was asking for.
How did you build a following of 4,500 people in like a year?
I just knew when I started SIEVA as a business, and when I picked the name, I wanted it to be the same all across the board for that reason. Just consistency. I wanted it to be a strong name, and I wanted it to mean something. I went online, I actually looked through baby books because I wanted a name that was one name, striking, bold, and memorable, and different. I Googled beautiful. And SIEVA came up in the Finnish language, and it means pretty one. The reason why that stuck with me was because when you're in swimwear, you're pretty much almost naked. I wanted something that people could wear that they'd really feel good in their skin. It's radiating and feeling beautiful from the inside out. Found the name. I wanted it to have a social media handle or name that was the same across all boards. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, everything. It's all at SIEVA Swim. That was the first thing, and it was open. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna take it. So after I chose a name, I started designing a logo, which I commissioned someone to help do that as well. It was just one thing at a time. I wanted to build a social media following so that when the pieces came and the product arrived, that I'd have an audience.
Such a good
to
call.
Showcase to, you know, and essentially people who would want to buy.
What did you put on your Instagram if you didn't have a line to show?
Inspirational photos. I had gathered some things from Pinterest, all relating to the theme of like everything beachy, everything active, you know, like a mood board for myself to kind of feel like what I liked and what I didn't like. I commented and started being really interactive with users that I felt would fit my demographic. What is social media? What purpose does it have other than if you're sharing your life with someone? As a business, you're a business. You want to drive traffic to your page for what? Essentially sales, right? Black and white.
So now you're at the point where you're doing photo shoots and stuff like that. So obviously there's a lot of new content on your page.
Yeah.
So how are you making those photo shoots come to life?
I've gotten lucky with friends who work with cameras, and they're actors or models who want to kind of have content for themselves too. Our first lookbook was something where I paid certain people to be a part of it, and then there were other people who wanted to give their time and collaborate, and I gifted them a suit as payment. So it was just appreciation in different forms. That was one way to do it. It's just like going out with your camera, and you don't need a fancy, huge camera. These days I feel like everybody has an iPhone, and you know,
if you have the iPhone 6, it's actually a really good camera.
It's not bad. So you go out and you snap pictures, and you just keep going. You keep taking photos, and all you need is one. With filters and all that, it helps so much.
Where do you see SIEVA in the next year?
I'm designing the next collection actually next week. That'll be for spring of 2016. If I were to say, you know, next summer or next fall, I'd hope that we could be showcasing our stuff at Miami Swim Week, having pieces being on the runway, doing more collaborative work with influencers who have over 100,000 in following, getting content for that and getting that up on the website. Now it's really marketing just even more on top of the base of a foundation. I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now if a boutique owner from Montana said I wanted to work consignment with you with 10 pieces, and yeah, I'd be open to that. I don't want it to be so mainline and mainstream and just so easily accessible.
Was there any point where you felt like, okay, this is like way more than I thought it was going to be?
No. There have been moments that I've looked back and like, could have done that differently. But you work with the best that you can and the knowledge that you have, the information at hand in that moment. For example, like one of the biggest mistakes was that when I first started, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna do this. I had the support of my family and friends. The light was lit and I was ready to go. But I went in, and the first mistake I made is that I was like, okay, I want 7 different cuts and I want them all in this color, and let's make them like this and just produce. And then I made them, and every single piece came out wrong. Some of the things, fabrics were too thick, some of the fit was wrong. One of the things I wish I said to my 1 year ago self is start with one piece. One piece, perfect it, move forward from there and tweak little things that you like from a garment that you already have, you know, that you've already created.
What's one piece of advice that you'd give somebody who's thinking about starting a swimwear line?
You just have to keep going. You're not gonna have all the answers. I never had all the answers all at once, and that's okay. It's just you find out as you go. Like as you keep working towards it, you're gonna make mistakes, but that's okay. There's going to be things that work out, and it's good to celebrate and give yourself praise. But there's always something to work towards. And I think that that's what it is that people are always asking me from social media, like, oh, you seem to have it made. Like, it looks like you're so on top of this. I'm glad that's what it looks like, but half the time I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But that's just a secret between us, you know?
And you.
And you. For the most part, I've learned a lot, and it's just not being afraid to ask people for help in any aspect in life. I personally would rather ask a question, multiple questions, and do it and get it right, you know, by experiencing, than going in a room with no idea and like just doing things blind and making mistakes over and over again. And just be happy. If you don't like it anymore, then you can do something else. You know?
Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find us on our website. You can shop our 7 different looks right now that come in various colors. They're all adjustable. Some of the pieces are reversible, so it's like you're getting a 2-in-1 at SIEVASwim.com, SIEVASWIM.com. And then you can also find us on all our various social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and our Facebook page at SIEVA Swim.
And you can follow her on Snapchat.
SIEVA Swim.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was so much fun. I hope you got something from this. If you are looking to follow your dreams, especially as a swimwear designer, hopefully Viv was able to help you today. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye. So, da-da-da-da-da.
We're sitting really close.
I know, but I kind of like it.
Okay. Hold up.
Okay.
Did you need your voice recorder?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
This is off to a really good start. Kapkunka.
Kapkumaka.